today for our masterclass focusing on finding mobile developers. I do want to start off by letting you all know that we are going to be recording this session. We'll definitely share a copy of the recording along with all the content that we covered today, as well as some helpful resources for you all via email after our session today here. And so with that, we'll go ahead and get started through our agenda. I do ask that you please keep yourself on mute. However, given that we are a smaller group here, if you have any questions as we go through any of this content, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. If you feel more comfortable asking a question in the chat, please feel free to do so as well. We'll definitely be monitoring that for any questions that come in as we go through today's content. And so with that, we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the market. So I'll be covering that section specifically, and then I'll turn it over to Max to talk about mobile developers, some tips and tricks as far as searching with Boolean on Dice. And then he'll turn it over back to me just so from quick tips and tricks on candidate engagement, as well as some of the releases that we have had in the latter half of 2023 that you can, of course, benefit from here as we start 2024. And so with that, we'll turn over to just some quick introductions. My name is Juan Maxines. I am the Regional Vice President of Sales. I work very closely with our account management team and really serve as the executive sponsor to all of our partners, making sure that your programs are successful. You have all the tools and resources needed on your end to ensure that success as well. I am here joined by Max Foster. Max, do you want to give a introduction yourself?
Yep. Hello, everybody. My name is Max Foster. I'm our manager of client success for the direct and commercial client team. So going to go over a couple of tips and tricks here for how to find mobile developers with the Dice platform today.
Awesome. Thanks, Max. All right, so just to kind of start off with the state of the market. So we know that there's been a lot of questions, a lot of different feelings on where is tech heading, have things slowed down. We don't really tech, we anticipate it's going to continue to be in high demand in 2024 and beyond. Just based on some of the statistics shared by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, from 2021 to 2031, software developers will see a growth of about 25%, and data scientists alone will also see a growth of 35%. So for visibility purposes, generally we see about a 5% growth in those same types of fields. So that is way above what we expect to see over the next few years even. We know there have been concerns just with the massive tech layoffs that we did see, and we still see some of those, from some of the bigger tech companies. But one thing to note is that really, some of those layoffs are something that's a little more common within the tech industry. There are essentially cyclical cycles that essentially happen, and that's driven by many different factors such as financial compulsions, business reworks, and just change in technology. So we see that when there's new technology that needs to be, of course, embedded into every client's environment, there's a need for that tech hiring, right? And obviously, if there's other access to that, sometimes there could be potential layoffs that happen from there. So it's always changing, but with AI and machine learning really continuing to be emerging technologies, we expect that we're going to continue to see some uptick as well within that specific field. And there's going to be other types of roles that we also continue to see some growth. So we have some listed here. Web developers and digital designers, we expect 60% growth from 2022 to 2032. Data engineering roles, about a 21% growth, and then mobile developers, which we'll be covering today, we expect to see a 19% growth over the next decade. Specific to 2024, as I mentioned, AI is going to continue to have some expansion there, and of course, going to open up the doors as well to just how we connect with the digital world. 5G technology as well is going to continue to see some of that growth within the tech industry. And then lastly, virtual reality, we do expect that to also see an uptick, and of course, that impacting every industry really, including, of course, gaming and education, where we kind of see some of that the most. Now, as far as just hiring in tech in 2024, some things to take into consideration as you continue to hire in this space is tech will continue to be a market where just the salaries are very competitive. We continue to see some growth, and we're actually going to be releasing our 19th edition of our Dice Tech Salary Report here in the coming weeks. We actually have a webinar with our CEO, Art, tomorrow scheduled. We'll be covering some of the information that will be released as part of that report. So we'll make sure you get a link to that event for tomorrow if you would like to register. And one of the things to, of course, note as well is that, we understand sometimes salaries are very strict. There's very little wiggle room. But one of the things that you definitely want to make sure to be conscious of is just some of the benefits that are also provided to tech professionals. So we understand that companies offer, of course, health insurance, retirement plans, but if you are a hybrid model employer, for example, are there any benefits when they come into the office, such as like free meals? They may have an on-site gym that's available to them. Those are things that you definitely want to make sure tech professionals have visibility into, whether that's through your job description or your company page and how you brand yourself. That's going to be, of course, very important. Remote work does continue to be a strong preference for tech professionals. It just has opened a lot of doors for them to explore global opportunities as well, and really to expand, their network globally as well as different teams are off seas as well for them. So just one thing to keep in consideration, we understand that many have returned to a hybrid model. We do continue to see that on DICE, more and more roles. Of course, just keep in mind that, again, when you have that hybrid model, you want to make sure you appeal to them through what else do they get when they are coming into the office space. Global collaboration and network opportunities are also key for tech professionals. You want to make sure that you give them the opportunity to network with others globally, and also continue their educational development, essentially. So if there's opportunities for them to continue that just through training programs, workshops, and attending conferences, that's something that tech professionals are always looking for. And then lastly, just really recognition, right? We understand tech professionals have that sentiment because a lot of what they're doing, of course, is transforming and developing and really contributing to groundbreaking innovations. You want to make sure that tech professionals feel like there's that value and that worth in all the work that they're also doing, because ultimately it drives that sense of purpose for them as well. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Max to talk a little bit more about mobile developers.
Cool. Thanks, Juan. So everybody, that's the state of the market and what candidates are typically looking for. And now let's kind of go into a little bit more of the definition of mobile developers and who they are. So mobile developers are professional software engineers who specialize in designing, building, and maintaining applications for mobile devices, right? So they use all sorts of different tools to be able to build that, right? And all of this is pretty much related to, right? If you have a smartphone, it relates back to your iPhone or your Android phone or your Samsung or even, right, like our TVs now have applications on them and various different devices connect with each other, and all of that happens with a user interface that, right, we call apps. So there's four kind of main things that I think we just need to know about is kind of when you're looking for mobile developers, figure out which area they're in, right? Are they in designing, right? Are they working on the user interface, working on the user experience? Are they working on how does the button look? How does the button work? Those types of things, that's on the designing front end. Then writing code, this is all back end type stuff. So what type of languages are they writing in? How does that actually connect to the database? Which devices need to talk to each other? All of that good stuff. And there's a lot of frameworks around writing code that I'll get to here in a second, but that's kind of more of the back end type stuff. Then, of course, there's testing and debugging. So, right, professionals who are really, really good at actually finding problems with apps and helping fix them. And then, of course, there is, right, improvements, those that make more and more smaller changes to apps, but really help maintain them. So, right, think of Facebook's app, right, has been around for 10 plus years. And it takes a lot to maintain that and make sure it's fully working for all whatever billion users are on there right now. So additional skills with that, right? Just determine, is this mobile developer front end, back end? What is my team hiring for? We've also got cybersecurity, right? So are they working on actually maintaining the security aspects of it? Are they a project manager helping actually build the team and then work on the app itself? Are they doing data management? Very, very important to decide and figure out what type of mobile developer you're looking for. Okay. One of the key things here that I'm going to give out right now is when searching for app developers, search via an educational background. A lot of app developers are self-taught, they've learned on their own. They've taken various boot camps, they've taken various classes, they've done YouTube tutorials to the nth degree. And with that, you want to try and find those mobile developers, right? And one of the best ways to do that is to search by some of those educational skills. So Udemy is an online like university type system or online learning platform. Search by Udemy, right? Search for those certifications related to mobile developers. Okay, moving on here, a little bit more technical jargon, and then we'll get into actually searching. So right, there's some backend computing. So there's native apps, web apps, hybrid apps. Essentially, if you're looking for a developer who is familiar with like who programs for native apps, right? That's like actually building an app for your iPhone, actually building an app for your smartphone, like your Samsung Galaxy. That's building for a native app. There are also web apps, which basically are typically reflections of an online website, and it just puts it into an app, but it's maybe a little bit optimized for the individual device or platform. And then, of course, there's a hybrid. So somebody that's able to work on both of those. But it's very important to understand what type of app or platform or system the developer is going to be working on. Okay, there's a couple of frameworks. So this is a little bit about how does the app work? How does it connect to things? And right, there's various versions. So right, React Native is created by Meta/Facebook, and it's really it's a framework to help you build iOS and Android apps. It's really, really popular. So you're going to want to start typing that into your Boolean bar. There is also Flutter, which is made by Google, and then Xamarin as well. These are just various words. There's a ton of other frameworks out there. I just want to put this here on the slide just so you get familiar with a little bit more with the vocab. Then, of course, there are skills and languages. I put down here the 5 most popular languages typically. And keep in mind, this changes all the time. There's JavaScript, Java, Swift, Kotlin, and Dart. Keep in mind, this is just a handful of them, and there's a ton more out there. Okay, diving into searching on Dice. So everybody, our goal is to help you find the right tech candidates for your role, right? Easier said than done, though, hence why we're all on this call together. Okay, so searching on Dice, right? Dice offers you multiple ways to find the right tech candidate, right? Whether it's career events, job postings, online banners, sourcing services and vetting. We offer a ton of different products and out there to help you find and pinpoint different types of tech candidates. Today, right, this is what recruiters use, and what we give you is the search aspect, right? We have a whole database here on Dice where you can search into. Now, it's really, really nuanced, and finding those tech candidates can be really tough, but that's what we're going to go over today. So there's 3 main ways to search on Dice. There's IntelliSearch. This is an artificial intelligence. You literally copy and paste your job description in here, and our database will pull up relevant profiles for you. Very, very similar to ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever you're using, where you just copy and paste certain things in and you tell it to do stuff. This is even faster and simpler because you just take a job description, put it in here, and it'll feature candidates for you based off of that. So super, super fast and easy. The second way to do searches is Booleans or keywords. This is what we'll mostly be focusing on today because finding those tech candidates can be really, really tough. And so we need to manipulate that search to properly elevate the candidates we want to look at. Then, of course, there is combined search. So you can do IntelliSearch plus a Boolean on top of it, really get that layered approach, which is great. You can do the IntelliSearch and kind of go splat. But then if you really need to start narrowing down, start using the Boolean. Okay, Boolean. If this looks intimidating for you, we will go over this right now, and I will fully break down how to write this. If you are a veteran of Boolean, I will explain a couple of little small nuances here and there, so I hope I keep your attention. And then we'll run an actual mobile developer Boolean in our database so you can see, and I'm going to show you a couple of tips and tricks on how to manipulate that. So Boolean essentially just means, do you have this word or do you not? Right? And our database will show, if you type in a word, it will show you candidates with that word in their profile. So with that, there are 5 main ways you can manipulate that search bar to help you find those candidates. There's parentheses. So use equation markers around keyword groupings to better indicate to the system what types of candidates you're looking for. And I'll explain a little bit more of that, but everybody, you should be really getting in the habit of using parentheses. The next is quotation marks. You use quotation marks anytime there is spacing, punctuation, or anything like that. So as you can see up here, JavaScript has a space in the middle. So I'm putting quotes around it. You can see the first one doesn't have a space in the middle. So that's a standalone word. We do not need quotes around it. The next are the three functions of and, or, and not. And means you have to have all of it, right? You have to have both. Or means you can have one, you can have the other one, you can have both, but doesn't matter. We just want to look at you if you have one. This is really the or function is going to be your best friend for mobile developers because there's so many words that are in very quick succession. They're all hyper related. So you're going to want to use those. And if you miss one, it's not the end of the world, but you might be missing out on some key candidates. So the or function is really powerful. The not function we'll touch on briefly here today, but take it with a massive grain of salt. It omits candidates. So if you say, and in our example here, it says not accounting. So you're going to, anybody that has accounting in their profile anywhere at all, they will no longer show up in your search results. So in the example you'll see here in a second, I say not Android. You can imagine how many mobile developers know iOS and Android? Probably most. So by saying not Android, you've actually cut out probably half the market. So be very, very, very careful about the not function. You kind of want to reserve that sometimes for company names. Like if there's a specific, like if you're hiring for your company, you don't want to look at anybody you know that's already been there. That's a great option to use that for. Okay. Going to move on here. Everybody, this is our lovely example iOS mobile developer out of Dallas, Texas, primarily looking for iOS, Objective-C, Swift, those types of skills. So let's go ahead and build out a Boolean. So this is the Boolean here, but I'm going to walk you through exactly how I type this out. So the first thing I'm going to do is always type in a left parentheses, and then I'm going to take a couple of those keywords that are really important, right? iOS and Swift were there first. Now, iOS is the operating system your iPhone works on, and Swift is the language you use to program that. So I'm just going to say iOS or Swift. That's really similar. If you've worked on iOS before and you're a software developer, you know Swift. So if you've got iOS in your profile, I want to look at you. If you've got Swift, great, you know how to write it. So I'm going to type in iOS space or space Swift. And then this is an iPad app that we're looking for to be developed. So I'm just going to say space or space iPad. If somebody has worked on an iPad, let's take a look at them. So then I'm going to close out with a right parentheses. So that's one parentheses grouping. I'm telling the system, do you have one of these words? If you do, I'm going to look at you. But you can imagine how many candidates have this. So let's narrow it down a little bit. So let's say now you also have to have space and space, new parentheses, quotation mark, because we're going to do Objective-C. Objective-C has a hyphen in there, so I'm going to put quotation marks exactly around it. So right in front of the O and right after the C there. By doing this, though, you can imagine with a hyphen in there, how many candidates have written it with a space, how many maybe have written it with a period in the middle, whatever. Let's look at you, right? Tech unemployment rate is still 1.5% or close to 2%, I think, right now, which means if you wrote Objective-C slightly differently, we still want to look at you. So I'm going to do Objective-C with a hyphen. I'm going to do space or space, new quotation mark, Objective space C, end quote, end parentheses. Then I'm going to do, now just for sake of example here, I'm going to do space, and now let's do our not function. The not function is a little funky to write. The biggest thing you need to realize is that the not function is kind of like you have socks on the inside and shoes on the outside. If you do not have both socks and shoes on, you cannot leave the house. That's how I remember it. So you need to have the equal number of parentheses on either side. So space and space, new parentheses, NOT, new parentheses, Android, and then I'm going to put one right parentheses, one right parentheses. Keep in mind, there are no spaces between the T and the parentheses. There's no space between the parentheses and the and. There's simply one space right here between and your next parentheses grouping. So I know I've been saying a lot of Boolean jargon, but I hope this makes sense. And we're now going to run into the actual system itself. Okay, there we go. Can everybody still see my screen? Good.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So I'm just going to copy and paste my lovely Boolean right here into the search bar, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit search. One of the biggest things we encourage you from Dice is run multiple searches. You're never going to find your favorite person on this first search. We're also used to Google telling us exactly what we want on the first search and the first three things. And if it's not you're right, the best place to hide a dead body is on page 2 of Google, which we could all believe is true. For Dice, we're very, very different, right? You're looking for these hyper unique, specialized tech candidates. You got to put in the effort. You got to rerun those searches to properly find those candidates. So we've just come up here with 39,000 candidates with relevant iOS Objective-C, but somebody who hasn't worked on it or doesn't have an Android background. Couple of things. One, that 39,000 is probably too much, but also we're saying not to Android. So let's just, for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to delete the end part and I'm just going to rerun. And this is why I love Boolean, is because you can simply delete, add, do or, ands, and you can really quickly manipulate this. And just by simply deleting that, I was able to nearly double the search results. So, especially if you're looking for tech candidates, Dice, we typically have the person you're looking for. It's just a matter of how can we use the proper keywords to find who you're looking for. So here we go. We have iOS, Swift, iPad, all that good stuff. Now I haven't typed in, I believe this was in Dallas, Texas. So I'm going to type that in. I'm just going to do 100 miles because Dallas is huge. And we want to get across to Fort Worth. So I'm going to hit search and there we go. Now we have a much more manageable number, 1,792. There are two filters I want to show you today. There is last active. Last active on Dice means when was the last time a candidate visited Dice, applied to a job, updated their resume, called somebody, anything like that, like interacted with the site. That's when you want to come here to last active. And you can type in 90 days for this example, and we can just go ahead and hit that. And now we're down to about 56 candidates. That seems like a pretty good call log right now. One other search filter I do want to point out is going to be desired work setting. This is brand new to your login. Over the last several months, we've been prepping and asking tech candidates what their desired work setting is. So remote, on-site, and hybrid. And now, ta-da, you can search by those preferences. Am I missing anything there, Juan?
No, I think that's it. I know sometimes one question that comes up is if you wanted to omit certain cities, so maybe you can't hire in California, let's just say, for workers' comp reasons or whatever other reasons, a company might decide not to hire there. Is there a way to add or search that way?
Yes. So what you'll want to do is type in whatever it is you need. In this case, we'll just say California. And then once it's here in your little bar, you're going to hit the toggle, the exclusion toggle, and then you're going to just do that. And then you're going to just hit search. And there you go. We were only searching in Texas. And so by the fact that we were omitting now California, that obviously doesn't have overlap. So we're still here at 56.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So just real quick, the likely to switch button or, filter option, I use that a fair bit. Is that better or the same as your, last active so many days ago?
The likely to switch is one of the coolest filters. So I actually prefer to use that too. Basically, and it's right over here for anybody wondering. So likely to switch, willing to switch. Our artificial intelligence reads the employment pattern of candidates and will tell you when that candidate is most likely to switch. So if you have somebody who's typically employed for 12 months, and if we're at the 11 and a half month mark, right? Typically before they are jumping to a new position, it's going to give you all three bars here for most likely to switch. I just click on most likely to switch. Possibly willing will just get you here to the two bars, which is also great. That helps you pipeline a lot more if that's what you're looking for. But if you're looking to hire the next 30 days, the most likely to switch is your best option.
Great, thank you. Can we like do that plus your last active so many days ago too?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay.
So I just did, yep. So last active 90 days on Dice, and then I just switched most likely to switch. And now you can see here, we've got a couple of candidates. John, here I'll open up, as well as Ahmad, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But yeah, there you go. Only suggestion there is everybody keep in mind that when searching the Dice database, right, we're looking for these super specialized candidates in these cities, is just be very careful to not layer too many filters on at once, because suddenly you'll be like, wait, nobody's there. Hang on, let's just back it up a little bit. There's probably somebody there. It just might be one of the filters, whether it's the remote filter or something like that. Let's turn that off and let's see how many candidates are there. And I'm sure you'll probably, if you toggle that off, you might find more. So over here, we have John. This is John and John's summary. Looks like we've got a lot of really good information, a lot of those skills inputted here, so it makes it nice and easy. Oops, I went too far. Excellent. We have other related links. So this is provided a little bit by the candidates, but also Dice will bolster profiles by finding outside internet portals and links and websites. I think we pull from like 300 or so, and we combine that data with the tech candidate's profile. So even if you're looking for a candidate and you're like, I'm just not finding the person I'm looking for, come down to the other related links. We typically are adding in information for you to look at, so you can still at least bounce and network and find that candidate somewhere else on the internet, so you can actually still try and get in contact with them. Speaking of getting in contact, we have all of these lovely buttons here at the top right-hand side. We understand that getting a hold of tech candidates can be quite the challenge, and so we've now implemented quite a few new methods for you to get a hold of the tech candidate. One of the best ways, if you haven't used this, is going to be the Dice message function. Dice chat is super, super powerful. We have a great response rate, not a read rate. We have a great response rate. I think it's something like 8.5 to 9% or something like that. I think last quarter, which is well above email, phone call, and other platforms. So, and the reason why it's so high is because tech candidates are familiar with Dice. They like when you're messaging them through Dice, they can click on your recruiter profile and see who you are and see that you're a legit recruiter, technical recruiter. So there's a lot of legitimacy behind you using the message feature. You can also attach a job description too. That is also a really nice touch. Okay, you can also email the candidate. I'm sure if you're looking at this though, you might be like, hang on, that doesn't look like a legit email address. Also, it says @mail.dice.com. Yes, Dice has implemented a masked email called a private email to help protect our candidates' privacy, which they actually really enjoy, and we're actually seeing a higher response rate with this than before. The masked email just allows the tech candidate to, if they want to ever turn their profile invisible, it will actually bounce your email, and so you actually get a no before, like even if they don't tell you directly to you via email, hey, I already found a job, you don't need to contact me anymore, you'll simply get a bounce back. So a lot of tech recruiters are now really liking this email feature because it gives them more information faster. We do have the connect feature. This is awesome. I'm not going to click this right now because I don't want to bother John, but the connect feature is going to now be a series of features behind it, but it just simply allows you to connect with a tech professional and have them living here at the top right-hand corner for you to later visit. This is excellent for pipelining or keeping in contact with somebody maybe 6 months down the road, especially for some of those more specialized candidates. You're definitely going to want to use that connect feature. Juan, did I miss any benefits there for connect?
No, you covered it all.
Cool. We do also have your phone number down here, or the candidate's phone number if they provide it. So that's also there available to you. I think with that said, I'll hand it back to you, Juan.
Sounds good. And if you think of any questions as I kind of go through some of the engagements and then some of the engagement tips, as well as some of the new releases, please feel free to stop us. We're happy to answer those questions as well. So as far as just tips and tricks on engagement with professionals, it really starts with the job description. Many of these tech professionals are looking, of course, for their next role. They're looking at multiple options as well. So two things that I do want to call out here from the first tip is just making sure that job titles do resonate with these professionals. We understand that from time to time, organizations have titles that are a little bit more relevant internally. And so when you're posting jobs, you just want to be considerate of that because title holders are looking for essentially the most common job, right? The common job title that they're normally used to seeing. So keep that in mind when you're posting that. And then also, we recommend around 500 to 600 words for your job description. Many of these folks are looking at jobs and completing their application on their mobile device. So having to scroll through a lengthy job description can deteriorate them sometimes from essentially completing the application. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at that job description itself. The next step is really the application process. So you definitely want to make sure that it's easy for them to complete and also that it is mobile first. As I mentioned, with them looking at the job description, if you have the apply directive from our site to your ATS page or your careers page, it of course makes sense for them to be able to complete it on the same device that they're currently on. So just be considerate of that when you're looking into some of your application processes. And then telling your story. So I touched a little bit about this earlier on when I mentioned about the competitive salaries. Make sure that you're telling your story. So we obviously offer some solutions as far as how you can showcase your culture, the benefits that you offer, things that really make you stand out that would attract some of that talent. So if you have questions, please reach out to your client success partner or account manager. They can definitely provide you with some additional insights on things that you can, of course, add to your company page or how you can maybe even enhance that through our enhanced company profile page and some of our other branding solutions that we also offer that let you put your brand out there on the Dice marketplace. And then lastly is just outreach messages. So Max showed you how you can essentially communicate with tech professionals via Dice. One thing to consider is just always always personalizing the message to those folks. So avoiding sending any sort of like just mass blank email template, really customizing it to that individuals, maybe including something about their work history that really stood out to you. That really just makes them feel like they're getting that one-on-one attention and can really help drive some of that stronger engagement and response rates that we were sharing as well. And then lastly, closing the loop. So we know that sometimes it's not a perfect match at this time, but maybe they're a strong candidate for a role that may be opening up in 6 months from now, or maybe they just need a little more experience for you to consider them. Making sure that you're closing the loop is really going to encourage some of these tech professionals to come back to your organization and look at your future opportunities. When tech professionals feel ghosted, so to say, they're a little more hesitant to kind of go back to those companies because they never really got any feedback on why did it work out at this time. So just a few things to keep in consideration. And then as we head into our enhancements, the very first one I want to talk about is reporting. So we now have reporting available through the main dashboard. You actually can access information as far as your job performance, such as views, applications, how many jobs you currently have active, see some of those trends. And then if you are an administrator, you can also take a look at your team's performance. So how many searches are they performing? How many views are they consuming? And this is really just the start of our reporting dashboard. We are looking to bring more reports that are going to be beneficial to you. But if you have questions, please reach out to your client success partner. They can help you. They can definitely help you walk through some of these. The next one here is company search. So we actually released this just last month in December at the end of 2023. And so this is a new way for tech professionals to search for companies. So they can actually search by different filters now, not just, of course, by searching by name or searching by a specific job, but if they want to take a look at a specific industry. So for example, if they're in fintech and they want to stay in fintech, they can definitely filter for finance under that industry filter that you see there. They can also take a look at a company that matches their size. Maybe they want a smaller company, makes it the one that appeal, or maybe they want a large organization. So they can filter by that. They can also filter by work setting as well. So what is the company offering? And of course, they can take a look and focus on those that are currently hiring. So whenever you do have active job postings on Dice, and if somebody filters by hiring, your organization will of course show up on there as well. And then this functionality was also released at the end of 2023 in December, which is SMS notifications. So now tech professionals can opt in for SMS notifications, and you actually can also opt in for SMS notifications. And so what this does is if you send a message to a tech professional, they will actually get a text message that lets them know that somebody has reached out to them from Dice. So as Max was mentioned, right, a lot of tech professionals know Dice, so they know the credibility there. So when they're receiving this information, they're going to be more prone to go in there and then take a look at that message that you sent them, and of course engage with you directly. And very similarly, again, you get a notification. So we understand sometimes you're not in Dice necessarily, all day, but at least you can get notified via your phone, or if you use it voice over IP, and that's where your phone number is tied to, you'll actually get a text message that lets you know somebody has replied back to you. And with that, I mentioned about logging in, and so being logged in every day, we actually have an easier way now for you to also log into Dice now. So we actually have SSO capabilities. So if you use Okta or Azure, we can actually link your Dice login into your SSO login. So if you have questions, definitely reach out to your client as partner. It's an easy way. We released multi-factor authentication last year. And so we know that with that, of course, you have to get the email or the text. You have to do it every 14 days. And so with SSO, that would actually eliminate that, because we'd be linking essentially your Dice login with your SSO login. And those are just some of the enhancements that we have here that we just released recently. We do have some upcoming masterclasses that we welcome you to join us as well. So the one in February is going to focus on network developers. The one in March is going to focus on data architects. We'll make sure that you have some registration links for both. So if you would like to join us, you definitely can. As well as just our virtual career events. So we have some great events coming up here, starting off in February with our DNIB and Tech event, which we're actually partnering with Power to Fly. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar, but Power to Fly is an organization actually originally founded by two female founders, have expanded and really look at connecting diverse networks essentially with career opportunities as well. So definitely encourage you to reach out if you have any questions on any of these events that we have upcoming here. We have our full schedule for the first half of 2024. And we are going to be releasing our second half here in the coming months. So if you have any questions, reach out to your account manager. They'd be more than happy to provide that information to you. And with that, I just want to thank you all for the time that you spent with us today. Hopefully you found today's information insightful. If you ever have any questions on the content that Max covered, Boolean, or if you have questions on Dice, what's new with Dice, please reach out. We're more than happy to provide any additional information. As I shared in the chat, I did post a link for our webinar with our CEO, Arzeli, tomorrow. That's going to be talking a little bit about our tech salary report that will be released here in the coming weeks. We'll make sure you also get a copy of that through your support team. But we're here. You have any additional questions, I'm here to support you all.